Hello everyone, DM Gashbad here. I am back for round 3 of the 2018 Batman miniature game California Championships. This was held in November of 2018. It's the last big tournament, the end of the Gotham City Circuit, which is a series of tournaments held by our two sidekicks, which have taken place up and down California over the last year. I've gone over all this information in previous videos, so if you haven't seen those, go ahead and check out games 1 and 2, which are up now. But for right now, let's get straight on to round number 3, game number 3. This is my crew. I'm taking my Fire and Ice crew. It's a Mr. Freeze crew with no Mr. Freeze. From left to right, we have my sidekick, Killer Frost. Then we have Prisoner 04, that's the bodyguard prisoner. He has a cool generator, which gives him the stop rule. Then we have my first free agent, Firefly. Then we have the leader. He's not actually a leader. He's a sidekick working as the boss. That's Captain Cold. In the back, we have Pipe Prisoner with no extra equipment. We have Captain Cold's good buddy Heatwave. He's a free agent. He's right off to the right. And at the very right, we have Little Spark. Little Spark has a grapple gun. So to say the least, I've had mixed results with this crew so far, but I do want to give them a good test run. Which brings us to this table. This scenario will be Secure the Area, which is kind of a cool one. I'm sure I played it before, but I don't really remember when I might have done that. We have to split our crews into the corner deployments. So each player gets a little triangle in the corner to deploy in. Half your crew has to go in one spot, half your crew has to go in the other. We have to put one of our objectives in the middle of the table, and the others go into our opponent's deployment zones, the little corners that our opponents deploy in. Anyway, the thing I like about this scenario is that you can play it a bunch of different ways. You can have a big fight in the middle where you fight over the central objectives. You can spread out and go for the objectives in the corners and play like more of a cagey avoidance game. Anyway, there's a lot of different options. This is a picture of the table after everything has been set up, so the urban furniture, both the crews, all the objectives. I did set up the terrain correctly now. I had a little bit of time between games, so I went back on this table. This is the one where this is the same table where I had messed up the measurements initially, so when I went and I fixed the one board that I played on game 1, I also fixed this one, so yeah, it's the correct size, which is nice. My opponents, speaking of round 1, he drove in from Las Vegas with my round 1 opponents, so we got some people from out of town playing here, so that's really nice. He will be using a Brave and the Bold crew, and we'll get to what's in his list when we get to the deployment photos, which would be about now. So here we have my opponent's first deployment zone. We have, he's got a Brave and the Bold crew, and he has Gotham Police Woman, and for free agent, he has the new Rebirth Harlequin. You can see I placed my Titan objective in that deployment zone. And moving off to the opposite corner, we have the rest of his crew. We have Arkham Guard 3. He's the guy with the riot gun. He has also got a whistle. We have Nightmare Batmans. That's Ben Affleck Batman with an assault rifle. So that's the new limited edition model you can get direct from Night Models. That's going to be really interesting to face. And we have Constantine. So we have a magic user. I haven't faced too many of those before, so of course that's going to be a little bit new for me. So this is an interesting crew. My thinking is that if you were to make a list of some of the best Brave and the Bold models that you can take in a single crew, it would include a lot of what we've got here. Nightmare Batman has a scary amount of damage. Constantine, of course, is very, very good. He can do a lot of different things. I myself like Arkham Guard 3 with his riot gun. Gotham Police Woman is just a quality, low rep cost model. And Rebirth Harley Quinn has a lot of good things going for her. So these are some very strong models. I'm not sure how they all work together. It doesn't have some of the obvious combinations that a lot of Brave and the Bold crews have, you know, like Commissioner Gordon with some of those shooty guys. But this is going to be new territory for me, so we'll find out how this game progresses. Turning to my deployment zones, here's my main group over here. We've got Captain Cold and Heatwave, and we've got Prisoner 04 trying to keep Captain Cold alive, and Pipe Prisoner, who's just tucked in the back because, of course, he's looking at that sewer again. If you're wondering why they're sort of bunched off to the edge there, that's because I wasn't paying attention to where I was placing street lamps again, and there's this one street lamp right in front of me that's just illuminating that whole deployment zone, and I really don't need Nightmare Batman opening fire on my guys very early on. His assault rifle only has a medium range, but he is equipped with a grapple gun, so in the beginning I was very aware of the danger that Nightmare Bats can pose, so I'm trying trying to stay out of the light and just try to keep my guys from getting too shot up in the early rounds of the game. You can see my opponent's medical supplies are tucked into my deployment zone here. On the other corner of the table, we have Killer Frost, Little Spark, and Firefly. These are kind of my faster guys, my less important side, really. So the general idea is that these guys are going to play catch-up with the other group. They're a little bit faster, a little bit more expendable in some ways. And so my main group's just going to truck towards the center of the board and try and take control of the objectives there and lay down a fire base, while these guys are operating as support. So my opponent placed his loot objective in that deployment zone there, which I thought was kind of interesting. As a side note, as you may have figured out from what I said earlier, this is another one of my tables. I don't get to play on this table as much anymore. I've been using my casino table kind of quite a bit, but I am happy to be using my construction table with the big hangers. As far as strategies went, I believe we both took fast advance, which means that they cancel each other out and neither of us get it. I took change of plans, which I intended to use to move my objective in the objective zone with Nightmare Batman. I wanted to move that closer to a sewer marker to occupy that, but that was just looking a little bit too rough. There's just too many guys there. And I had to put the Titan objective over in this corner. I would have rather placed the medical supplies with Harlequin and Gotham Policewoman, but the thing is, that Titan objective, it's an older thing that I made for myself, and it's on a larger base. I made it back when there were no standard base sizes for objectives, so it's kind of a little bit too big, and it wouldn't actually fit in the deployment zone with Nightmare Batman, Constantine, and Arkham Guard 3. So I had to put the Titan objective here because it would fit here, and I had to put the meds over on the other side. Now, of course, I would have rather swapped them around so that I can send Pipe Prisoner through the sewer, and he can go and claim the higher scoring objective. But I wanted to send him where there were less powerful people, so Pipe Prisoner would just get shot to pieces if he went over near Nightmare Bats and Constantine. So this is the way I had it sorted out. But anyway, my other strategy was change of plans, and so I used change of plans to scoot that Titan objective over straight to the sewer marker like I did last round. The intention being I'm going to send Pipe Prisoner through there, and I'm going to start scoring off of that from round 1. And of course, both of us put an ammo in the center of the table. We both have ammo objectives. We both have people with guns. We just want to shoot at each other from like point blank range, and that sounds fun to us. Unfortunately, I can't remember what the other strategy my opponent took was. So it's time to start the game. We reach into the Bag of Destiny, and I pull out my counter. Now, normally when I do that on the first round, I make my opponent go first so that I can react to what he's doing, and I just have a couple more options later in the round. But this time, that lamppost is bothering me. I'm really worried about Nightmare Batman grappling forward and shooting up my guys very early on. So I actually activate Heatwave first, and he's just gonna go, and you know what, ammo be damned, I'm gonna burn up that street lamp just so I don't have to advance into its illumination range. I do have another street lamp off to the right a little bit, which is still causing me problems. But anyway, I'm going to fry that street lamp. You know, Heatwave is a criminal. He enjoys these acts of petty vandalism. And that's my first activation. For my opponent's first activation, he's going to go and he's going to take Arkham Guard 3 and he's going to move him straight forward as far as he can go. And it's at this point that I realize I've got that big under construction building in the middle of the table, and there's a passageway that runs straight through it. So at this point I realize that if my opponent goes far enough, he can actually see straight through that center hallway at my guys, which are creeping through the under construction building on the other side. And so I'm a little worried about that because there is another lamppost that I'm going to be starting to move into, and so now I have to keep that in mind as I move the rest of those guys forward. For my next activation, I'm going to take Little Spark. Little Spark doesn't have anything critical that he has to do right now, but my opponent did place that loot objective right next to him, and I say, hey, can't look a gift horse in the mouth. Little Spark is just going to walk over to that, pick that up, and claim that, and that's going to be the end of his activation. Gotham Policewoman is going to activate next. She is just going to move left towards my big group of Heatwave and Captain Cold and all those guys. I'm going to activate Captain Cold next. Captain Cold, I'm going to have him move far to the right, so he's coming to meet Gotham Policewoman. He's under the illumination of that lamp, but I think I'm far enough over that I'm not going to get too many shots through that hallway, and I am careful that I do want a ping between me and anything that will be coming through, so I think I'm reasonably safe. Harley Quinn goes and activates next, and she is super, super fast. She's got all this movement, she's an acrobat, she's fast, so she's just got tons of range. She just rockets to the center of the board. But now that Gotham Policewoman and Harlequin have both left that deployment zone, I figure it's safe for Pipe Prisoner. Pipe Prisoner is going to go through the sewers, and he's going to come up in contact with that Titan objective. Constantine is going to activate next. He doesn't have a ton to do. He's just going to move straight up behind Arkham Guard 3. And it's at this point that I realized that maybe I'm not going to be too bad off in this game, because it looks like Batman, Nightmare Batman, Constantine, and Arkham Guard 3 are all pretty slow. And they've got this giant building in their way. So I'm starting to think that they might not be able to get into the action until maybe later in the game, where it might be too late. They are not exactly cooking down the board, so I'm starting to have a positive feeling about this. Nightmare Batman still hasn't activated, so I'm going to take Bodyguard Prisoner, Prisoner 04, and I'm going to move him directly right. And the reason why I'm not moving more towards the center is, again, because there's a lamppost over there, and you can see straight down that building there. There is that corridor. I'm a little worried about Nightmare Batman or Arkham Guard 3 in a later turn, or Constantine with his fireballs coming in and roasting somebody there. So even though I don't bother getting cover, I'm staying out of the light. I'm staying a fair distance away, hopefully out of range of these guys, and I'm just being a little bit cautious right now. Nightmare Batman decides not to use his grapple gun right away, so he's just going to move straight forward with the rest of his friends. And now it's time to start throwing some attack dice. So Firefly is just going to fly over, and Harlequin, in order to get that far, has in fact used up all of her movement counters. So she's not going to be able to dodge, she's not going to be able to put out fire, so he's just going to spray fire at Harlequin, and he is going to wound. He's going to cause a blood and a stun, and that's going to put her on fire, which means she's going to get another fire counter and another blood at the end of the round. And to add injury to insult, I'm also going to move Killer Frost up there. Again, I don't really need to stop her because she doesn't have any movement counters, but I do it anyway because it does lower her defense, and Killer Frost is going to fire some ice daggers at her. She is going to hit once, she's not going to wound, so she's going to cause a single stun. Killer Frost is, even though that stop didn't do a ton this round, I do want her in position to stop Harlequin again, slow her down a little bit, and also set her up for more fire hopefully very, very soon. And sure enough, it's the first turn, so I draw a counter and I take out my counter, which is nice. So I activate Killer Frost right away. I'm going to go and stop Harlequin, so now she's not going to be putting out any of that fire on her own. And she can, since her ice daggers have the reload rule, I have to jump over that fence, which is easy enough to do because I'm an acrobat, and I'm going to go and just attack her in hand-to-hand. Well, I miss with all my attacks, which is too bad, but at least that has slowed her down. Harlequin is going to activate next. She does not like the position that she is in, and who can blame her? So she is going to go. She's going to swing with that hammer at Killer Frost. Killer Frost has used Adaptable to make her defense 5, so Harlequin is fortunately not going to hit because that hammer causes 3 stun each hit that it does, so I really don't want to take many shots from that. But she does go and miss, which is nice. She still has a lot of movement. She can move 7 inches just basic, and so she gets away from the people trying to hunt her down. So that brings it back to my turn. I'm going to activate Heatwave, and those lampposts are still bothering me. So Heatwave is just going to move forward as far as he can, and he's just going to punch that lamppost. I've gotten unlucky with Heatwave punching things before, but I have confidence that he can smash an inanimate object, and sure enough, he does. He throws a ton of attacks into this thing, and he topples it over, which is going to make things easier when Captain Cold and Prisoner 04 have to advance through that area. It's a little hard to see, but the next thing that my opponent does is going to take Arkham Guard 3 and is actually going to move him into that under construction building there. So he's tucked into that corridor right in there. So I'm going to activate Captain Cold. Captain Cold can see Gotham Policewoman, and those pings don't bother him since he has a beam weapon and they are -2 to any ping rolls. So he's going to fire a couple shots at Gotham Policewoman as he moves forward to take that ammo. Now, of course, he's going to fire, so he gets a full rate of fire, and then he's going to move. But anyway, he does that reliable 2 blood onto Gotham Policewoman, so she's gone through half of her endurance already, so I'm feeling okay about that. And I'm also claiming that central objective, and hopefully if anyone comes around to try and blast Captain Cold, his defense of 4 and that ping will help him out. Gotham Policewoman is a good cop. She's not going to be put off by being shot at by some super weapon, so she's going to move forward and she is going to whistle Prisoner 04. So now Prisoner 04 can't spend movement counters, so too bad for him. It would have been nice for me to get him in the fight, but that's okay. So that's Gotham Policewoman trying to bring some law into the middle of this Gotham City firefight. For my next activation, Little Spark is just going to take that loot and he's just going to move down the side of the table a little bit. And then Constantine is going to activate. Constantine still can't quite get into the middle of the fight there, but he's going to move forward as far as that he can. And he can now see Harlequin, and so he's going to use a couple of his spells, and he's going to remove all the effects. So he's going to remove stop, and he's going to remove all the fire counters and all that stuff. And he's also going to heal her up, which is disappointing. The newly slowed down Prisoner 04 is going to move directly towards Gotham Policewoman, who is boldly using her whistle at him. And then here he comes. Here comes Nightmare Batman, the apocalyptic Batfleck. He's going to use his grapple gun, and he is going to move to his ammo objective. He's going to sit down there, and he is going to lay down some fire at Captain Cold. So part of the reason I'm not terrified of this Batman is the same reason I wasn't terrified of the Flashpoint Batman from the last game. Yeah, the gun is good, 3 rate of fire, assault 2, 2 blood, that kind of thing. He also has the mixed combat style, but again, he doesn't have any Master Marksman for +1 to hit, Master Marksman for rerolls, no Ranged Master for +1 to hit, and nothing to take away pings. So again, in these sort of medium-range firefights, I'm feeling kind of okay. That said, even with his 2 shots, he does manage to hit and wound, and I fail the ping with Captain Cold, so Captain Cold is going to take 2 blood, but I'm sort of okay with that. That's not too devastating. Especially since that now brings him into range of Firefly. Firefly is going to fly over that fence, and he's going to spray his own firepower down that corridor. He didn't like how people went and put out the fire that was toasting Harley Quinn, so he's going to put her back on fire. She's going to get another fire counter. She's going to get another blood and a stun. I'm also going to hit Batman with that spray attack. He is not going to get wounded, but he does fail his bat armor save, which is fine, so he is going to get 1 stun and also a fire counter. So it is a new combat round, and now, yeah, we're getting into the thick of the fighting here. My opponent is going to go ahead and take the lead, and he's going to activate Harlequin first. Harlequin goes and puts out the fire that's currently about to fry her, and she moves forward, and her hammer has a 2-inch reach, so she's going to take a couple swings at Firefly. Fortunately, again, there's a triple stun weapon, and Firefly only has 6 endurance, so she is going to go ahead and miss Firefly, and that's really good news for me. She is also going to go and crouch at the edge of that warehouse, anticipating that other people are going to try and shoot at her. But no, actually, Captain Cold has bigger fish to fry. He's actually going to fire 2 shots at Nightmare Batman. He does pretty well here. Now remember, Nightmare Batman, I believe, only has defense 4, and Captain Cold is a ranged master, so he gets +1 to hit. So these shots, they're not bad odds. So I'm going to fire 2 shots at Batman. I am going to get one of them through for 2 blood, and then I decided I've had enough of this. I really don't feel like getting in a prolonged firefight with Bruce Wayne. So he's just going to move around that corner out of line of sight. Unfortunately, there's still Constantine lurking around, so he's going to come around that corner, and he is going to heal Batman for some of that damage, and he's going to remove the fire counters from that guy. Again, all this is very disappointing. And he's going to throw a firebomb of his own at Firefly, and he is going to hit and wound, or he's going to make the casting roll. He's made all his casting rolls so far. Firefly is going to take 1 blood because Firefly has a Kevlar vest, so he removes 1 damage marker, but he is going to get a fire counter. Let's see how that guy likes his own medicine there. So I incorrectly perceived that most of my opponent's important models have already activated, so I'm going to go ahead and activate Prisoner 04. Now, I didn't like being stopped last round, so I'm actually going to use my cool generator and stop Gotham Policewoman this round, so now she has the stop rule, and he is going to move into contact with her, and he's going to try throwing a couple of those brass knuckle punches at her. Hey, what do you know? Prisoner 4 actually hits and does 2 stun damage, which is going to KO Gotham Policewoman. That's the best I've ever seen this guy do, so I'm real happy about that. But let me go into this a little bit. So I usually tell my opponents before the game starts, if they're not familiar with fire, I say, now the thing is, I'm going to put these fire counters at the end of the round, you get another fire counter, you take a blood damage, that kind of thing, and at any time you can put out the fire using a movement counter. And so the key word there is at any time. You don't have to wait for your activation, you don't have to wait really for anything. Like as soon as the round starts, you can use your movement counters to put out any fire counters that you have. And I'm often surprised at how infrequently my opponents take advantage of this. It can be really important to put out those fire counters right away so that your opponent doesn't have the opportunity to do something like use stop or KO you or something like that. And you know what I went and did? I went and did the exact same thing. So Firefly has movement counters. He's sitting right there. He hasn't activated yet. He just got set on fire by Constantine's spell. I could have spent that immediately, you know, to put out that fire counter, and I didn't. So, you know, every time I think to myself, boy, my opponent made a big mistake. Well, you know, it's not so easy coming up with that at the fly, even with someone who uses fire a lot. So, yeah. Arkham Guard 3 is going to activate. He's going to move forward, and he has a whistle, and so he is going to whistle Firefly. And so, how do you like that, guy? Now, you can't use movement counters to put out your fire, and you're just going to roast. And just to put a little cherry on top of all that, he's also going to shoot at him on the move with his riot gun. He's going to hit, he's going to wound. I do take off 1 because of the Kevlar vest. He's going to take 1 stun, but I feel kind of dumb. So Firefly has a little bit of a problem. Like, number 1, he's just taken some damage and he's on fire and he can't put it out. He also can't fly because that requires a movement counter. He is also out of ammo. My goal was to move him to my ammo objective and draw more stuff for my fire thrower so that I can keep doing what I'm doing. But now I can't do that because it's too far away. So instead, I'm just going to lob a grenade. I got that single frag grenade. I'm just going to toss it out in the middle. Now, reading the rules for grenades, it appears that even if I throw it at a point of ground, that ground could still get a ping. And so what I'd really love to do is drop it right in between Constantine and Batman and all those guys. But I'm worried that it's going to get a ping from the Harlequin and the side of the building and all that kind of thing. So instead I just go for a bit of open ground, kind of in the middle there. So I'm going to blow up a lamppost that was sitting right there, and I'm going to put a blood and a stun on Harlequin. And then I'm just going to kind of creep away, simultaneously thrilled and dismayed that I am currently on fire. That's pyromania for you. But my opponent isn't done with Firefly yet. He is well and truly sick of that guy. So Nightmare Batman is just going to move up so that he can see Firefly again, and he's going to take some shots on the move with that Assault 2 rifle of his. He's going to hand him 2 blood and a knockdown. So of course Firefly is going to take another damage at the end of the round. He's really hurt. With that extra blood he's going to get at the end of the round, he's only going to have 1 endurance left. That said, I'm not exactly sure why Firefly is taking 2 blood from this. As far as I know, Nightmare Batman has a 2 blood weapon, and even if he gets the crit, you'd think I'd take away a blood instead of a stun from my Kevlar vest. So I'm not really sure if that's a mistake or something, but whatever. For right now, Firefly has taken 2 blood, and he's on fire and very, very hurt. And what do you do when you're a henchman and you just see an expensive free agent get set on fire, blasted, and fall to the ground? You don't do anything. You just hang out right at the corner of the building holding on to your loot, and that is all you do. And that's what Little Spark does. But when you're a Heatwave and you see all that kind of stuff happen, you think, oh boy, this is the place for me. He's going to borrow a couple of those movement counters from Captain Cold because of his teamwork rule, and he is going to go right in the center of that, and man, we're going to get a glorious flamethrower shot right here. So I'm going to hit all of those guys. I'm going to put a blood and a stun on Harlequin. There's another fire counter for you. I'm not going to wound Nightmare Batman, but it doesn't make his bad armor save, so there's a stun and a fire counter for you. Arkham Guard number 3, same thing. You're going to take a blood and a stun and a fire counter. And Constantine, didn't get that 2 wound roll to go through, but there is a stun for you as well. What a great shot. Firefly is going to be really jealous. Heatwave is absolutely thrilled. And it is a new round, and I'm going to do that exact same thing again. Right off the bat, I'm going to activate Heatwave. I absolutely cannot wait. We're going to fire his last flamethrower shot at those same people. I'm going to burn up Harlequin. Harlequin is going to be out of action. She's got to go heal that up somewhere else. I'm going to hand another stun. Still can't wound Constantine, but there's another fire counter. We're going to put another blood and a stun and a fire counter on Nightmare Batman. We're going to put another blood and stun on Arkham Guard 3. Oh, all those guys are in really bad shape. Well, maybe not Constantine. Constantine's probably doing fine, but everyone else is looking a little rough. But Nightmare Batman has seen worse than that. He's not concerned at all. He's going to ignore all the fire that is on him, and instead he's just going to run up and he is going to punch Heatwave. Now, he doesn't go and do the mixed combat style. I think he's a little low on dice for that kind of thing, but it doesn't matter because he's got everything that he needs just in his fists. That's why he's the Batman. Comes in there and just... Even though Heatwave has some defense dice and he can borrow some from Captain Cold, Nightmare Batman just lays him out. Just does that 8 stun he needs to take Heatwave out just in one go. So good job, Nightmare Batman. Now, Killer Frost is going to activate. I think I actually forgot entirely about Killer Frost last round. I don't think I did her activation at all. Oops, my bad. Anyway, I'm going to make up for it. I'm going to have her activate right now. I'm going to go and I'm going to stop Arkham Guard 3, see how he likes it. I'm going to make sure that he doesn't put out his fire, even though, again, he could have earlier on, but what can you say? It's an easy thing to forget. She's going to run up and she's just going to try and stab him with her ice hands, and she misses. Constantine is just going to hang out there. He's going to try and heal up people as well as he can. Captain Cold is going to try and hand out some vengeance, which, by the way, is best served cold, for Nightmare Batman punching his friend out. He's only going to do a scratch. He's only going to put one stun on Nightmare Batman, which is a shame. But then he's just going to hop around and he's going to claim that ammo objective again. Arkham Guard 3 is going to activate. He's going to move to the corner and he's going to try and fire at Captain Cold. He does manage to hit, doesn't manage to wound. Captain Cold is going to take one stun from the Just a Scratch. And finally, Firefly, who is super low on counters, completely out of ammo. He's going to get himself off the ground. He's going to put out the fire that is on him, and all he can do is sort of stumble along with that big unwieldy jetpack of his, hopefully trying to get towards that ammo. So that is the end of round 4, and we are just about out of time. At that point, we decide to call it there, and I think the main reason that we do that is because Nightmare Batman actually goes up in flames right now. I think he's actually going to get himself perished from the fire counters that are currently consuming his ridiculous trench coat. And with the removal of my opponent's leader, that's pretty much it. I've already scored a giant amount of victory points. Little Spark has been sitting on the corner there, holding on to that loot the whole time. Remember Pipe Prisoner? I haven't been taking pictures of him, but he's just been sitting on that Titan canister the whole game, gathering himself up a nice 2 victory points, plus the leader bonus, plus the rounds that I had that controlled that ammo objective, and of course Harlequin and whoever else got taken out. It's looking pretty good for me, so we do call it there. Hey, this has been another nice win for the Fire and Ice crew, for Captain Cold's Rogues Gallery. I was definitely happy to get a win against people like Nightmare Batman, Rebirth Harlequin, and Constantine. Those are some tough models. But I think the terrain really played to my advantage. I think having those big structures that sort of these slow-moving guys had to slowly work around. If it was a lot more open, I think I would have had a much more difficult time. But in these small, medium-range firefights that we got into, I think that's where my guys really shine with their flamethrowers, their stop rules, and that kind of thing. So there it is, another battle report down. We're 3 games into the tournament, and we've got 1 more game to go. So I'll try to get that up when I can. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.